üretmek mümkün mü? Endüstriyel tasarım bu soruya bir cevap olabilir mi? Bir kentin tüm sakinleri aynı perspektife sahip olabilir mi? Böyle bir deneyimi yaratmak için şehir planlamacıları, mimarlar ve tasarımcılar nasıl bir araya gelebilirler? Bilgi ve iletişim teknolojileriyle kentleri dönüştürebilir miyiz sorularına kendi bakış açılarından cevap arayacaklar. Şimdi sunumlarını yapmak üzere konuşmacılarımızı sahneye davet ediyorum. You can come here, sirs. Thank you.
Shall we just start? Yeah? Okay, fine. Okay, thank you for inviting us. First I have to get a bit get used to this microphone, sorry for that. Welcome this evening. My name is Matthijs van Dijk. I'm one of the people that in togetherness kind of are NewXC. And beside that, I'm also a professor at the University in Delft at the Faculty of Industrial Design Engineering. And that's, I think, the oldest and the largest faculty of Industrial Design Engineering there is in the world. Not that it is, I think because of that it's better than other faculties or other universities, so don't worry about that. I think what we want to do, and maybe the plan already kind of is kind of torn into pieces, because the idea was that we were with 3 people. So first I tell a story about the ideas behind NewXC and about how we see changes in the world, how we see the world will develop in the future. And then Marcel that's Marcel, he was going to tell about more how people experience things. And then afterwards Jos would tell you about, Jos the third man in this group would tell you about how to make things that are sustainable in itself. Unfortunately, maybe Jos isn't there, we will see, so we will see what happens, so please apologize if our plan doesn't come together. Good thing, we have to improvise, and I think I really love improvising, so that's the good thing of it. Who am I? So I'm the kind of son of a professional piano player who is my mother, of an engineer who is my father. So my father was a mechanical engineer, and I think they both kind of, for me, are kind of metaphorical, because people say that you can't join feeling and cognition. And this is what I do not agree with at all. So I think people have the capabilities to feel and to understand. And I think this is exactly what we as NewXC stand for. So in a way I try to combine the arts with knowledge, with science. And I want to kind of, at the end of my life, I want to kind of prove that it's one thing, and that's not 2 things that cannot be joined together. So this is, I think, what I'm aiming for my, my individual life. I think it's very important that I tell it to you, because otherwise it's just a sales pitch, which I hate myself. So this is what I'm not going to do either. So I'm going to talk about what we think is design should be all about, and this in the perspective of sustainability. And that's why I show you this first image, because I think we tend to forget that design in the end is for people. And the funny thing is, so I was educated as a mechanical engineer, so I'm a specialist in robotics, so I was completely kind of isolated from people. So I was kind of designing robots. And the beauty of designing robots is that you don't have to think about what it means for people. So you can fully focus on the specifications as such. You can make the most beautiful machine there is in the world. And this is what I kind of, after this education, I suddenly kind of understood that there's something missing. So if you design something that is only based on specifications, and you do not understand what things mean for people, what are you doing? So for instance, I was working on a mechanism in a shaver of Philips, and it was a very innovative new mechanism I had to came up with. And it was really fun working on it. So it was a kind of, it proved that you were a good mechanical engineer. And then after, I asked this product developer, but why do we develop this new shaver? And then he couldn't come up with an answer. And this was so disappointing for me. So I thought, why develop things that in the end people do not understand or want or desire at all? So this is a bit how it all kind of started. So that's why I show this image. It's from a photographer I really love. She's called Sally Mann. If you have the time, please look at her photographs because it's so beautiful. Okay. We, as NewXE, I think what is special about us, that we are a kind of cooperative of companies. And the beauty is that in being a cooperative, we are companies that have several identities and several, brand images ourselves, but we are joined together. So we're not one company with one idea and with one mind and one soul, but we're kind of, in itself, we're kind of soulmates. And we're all a bit different. And because of that, I think we can kind of conquer every design issue there is. And that's really special to experience. The good thing is about working together is that you become stronger because of the critical mass being less vulnerable. And this is how we want to kind of step into this world. So we think we have an idea of how you should look at the world, and this feels a bit moral or a bit ethical, but I think this is the role we have as designers, so this is what we should play. So in this togetherness, we have a kind of critical mass that makes sense suddenly. So suddenly, instead of 6 relatively small companies, we are one big company, and we're suddenly the second largest design company in the world. So that suddenly we kind of, we joined the Olympic Games of design. So it's suddenly we are kind of, we can work for as many companies as we want. And that's something that is really funny. That is nothing that kind of blocks you from doing. And yeah, I think this is the thing I want to say about it, because otherwise it's the sales pitch I hate myself. What I want to talk about is so we want to work together with people, and we want to work in countries, but before we started doing that, we wanted to have a kind of argument why to do it. Is it only because of economical reasons? And that was a bit, I thought, is that the only reason to go to another country to make money? No, that can't be true. So we did a research project ourselves on how we think the world is going to develop as a whole, as a kind of new economical entity. And I think what is kind of surprising, but also really nice to kind of discover, is that instead of that you start working together with the people who are the most close to you, so your neighbor or whatever, you start to work together with people that have the kind of same underlying values. So instead of working together with neighbors, you start working together with soulmates. It's the same kind of thing as the cooperative we have ourselves. So we found ourselves, and we want other people to find that has the same vision on what is of importance in this world. And more important even for not this world, but the world over 50 years. And what we discovered in a lot of friends we have, and also Turkish friends, that in Turkey, I think you have the same underlying value that human well-being is very important. That's the number one, I think. So it was told that at first you want to kind of take care for the people you live with. And this is exactly the same what happens in the Netherlands. So we see our cooperation as something that is a kind of effect or a result of people understanding each other. And in understanding each other, it is far more easy to work together. And in this working together, I see this vision of maybe in 25 years, we in togetherness become the expert in the field of social innovation. Because we see human welfare as one of the main principles of why we are here on this world. So this is it's a kind of ideological idea, but I think it's very important to tell. Because this world of economy, it's falling down, we all know it. So you have to have other reasons why you want to work together. And I think the beauty is that if you look at evolutionary theories, that it also is the best way to survive. So it is the best way to survive when you kind of join forces. And join forces with the ones that cost as less energy as needed. And that's, I think, very interesting. Now, I think that we already kind of visited Turkey for now, I think, 7, 8, 9 times, whatever. And we feel very quick related to you, and I think it's vice versa. It's something, of course, you have to experience yourself. So I'm not going to tell you that we are the same as you. So it's something you have to discover yourself. But this is the idea behind why we are here. We see this kind of as a very important step. And so cooperation it's not something that kind of happens within the groups that already kind of joined forces because of being neighbors. That's what I do not kind of believe in anymore. So it's about cooperation that is a result of shared values. And that's why I'm so happy that the new economies like Brazil, like Turkey, like India, that they have a completely other economical model than the West has. And I think it's a good thing. I think this is where we all have to go. Okay, and in this world, of course, if you look at this world, it is rather complex, we know. So if you see at all the things happening in this world, it is a kind of unbelievable, unstructured, complex thing that is very difficult to get any insights out. And that's why I took this picture of Isaac Newton, because he is a kind of marvelous guy that he was able to look at a tree, see this apple falling, and understand what gravity is, and being able to do calculations on the acceleration of an apple in relation to the mass of the apple. That's something that if you think about that, that's something unbelievable, I think. And it's not that we see ourselves as Newton, of course, but it's something that we want to work with. It's something that we think this scientific idea of reducing the complexity of the world into kind of structure, into schemes, into models, makes sense. Also in the field of industrial design, also in the field of architecture, also in the field of whatever you make. And I think this is what we tend to forget sometimes, because often design is about you make things because it feels good. And then I start to become very kind of, often I become angry because of it. Because the result of it is often that these objects that are made because only out of intuition and out of feeling, they make sense for yourself, but not for a community. And design is not the same as art. So design is something you do for a collective. Design is, and that's the distinction. So art is something to express yourself with. And if I can make my life happier when I kind of visit exhibitions, of artists. And this is what I love, that I know from myself I'm not an artist. And for me, architects are not artists as well. I know that's kind of maybe stupid to say here, but I think we have a kind of responsibility for the world, and this is what I want to address. So this is why I kind of want to emphasize on Isaac Newton. Oh, it doesn't work anymore. Oh, it works.
Oh, not so fast.
Okay. So I think we Dutchmen. So then I go back to these shared values, and the funny thing about Dutch people is that we love structure. So if you work with the Dutchman, he always talks about, is there any process, or is there any idea behind what you do? And is that good? I don't know. Is it bad? I don't know either. But it can help. And this is exactly what I'm aiming for. So we see design process as something that makes you understand this complex reality. And this is, I think, we have a kind of heritage in that we do research on design processes already for 50 years on design itself or on architecture. And so I'm really proud that this is the last book that is the outcome of 15 years of research. And this is a book that we use in New XE as well, because this is about how to understand what is of meaning for people in the future. So the thing is about design processes, they keep on evolving constantly. So the first design process were to understand how to make an idea into something materialistic. Then all the design process came about marketing, about understanding new market models. And now I want to understand, but in the end, it's not about the market, it's about people. I want to make something that is of benefit for people, not for the market. And this is the book to read that. And I hope, if you read it, that it kind of brings something for you as well. But what you see is that the design process, they can tell you, or they can lead you into something that you can understand what new value propositions are. And I hate this word as well, but this is about what meaning is. They can tell you about what is kind of desirable for people. That's important also, because if you make something of meaning, but you can't make it desirable for people, people will kind of reject it. And at last, you make something, a design process that is to kind of to increase this idea of effective manufacturing. So lean manufacturing is a very important step as well. And in togetherness, you control what you want to do. And yeah, maybe I'm a control freak, I don't know. But the good thing is that in the steps itself, there's always so much freedom to take that I don't think it kind of steers your, what is it? Your own ideas of what you want. So what I think is of importance, that processes helps you instead of you following the process. Oh, okay. And to go in depth a bit, so how many minutes do I have still, Marcel?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Go on.
This idea of making something that is of value for people, and again, it's not only about products. It's about every object you kind of put into this world. So it can be architecture, it can be services, it can be policies, everything you create. And Gibson found out, I don't know if you ever heard of Gibson, he was a psychologist from England, and he kind of followed the ideas of Heidegger. Heidegger was a philosopher. And he kind of proved that people have a specific reaction on products that have specific characteristics. It's a difficult sentence, but what it's all about is that a product is not a kind of collection of properties, but a product has a character or a personality in itself. So if you see this object here, maybe the personality is about outspokenness, I don't know. But we see something that is not tangible. And that's exactly how you look at people. So if you look at people, you at first kind of are encountered with the personality of the person you are encountered with, and then you start understanding which components kinds of make this personality. So first it's someone who is kind of a happy person, and then you find out that he has a mustache and he wears glasses, he wears stupid trousers, whatever, and sneakers. And in this togetherness, you understand who this person is. So it comes from Gestalt psychology. So it's something that we in people kind of have in our system to make that, to perceive that. That's beautiful, I think. It is like the two images over there. So the strong guy and the tiny slim guy. If you meet these guys in an alley, in a dark alley, you will react in a different way on the people. And this is exactly what the theory is all about. And the theory also counts for products, because if you have, for instance, this guy sitting in his BMW, he reacts differently on his BMW as his wife, who is standing here, who is very proud for her Fiat Panda. That's funny, isn't it? So it's not about good or bad anymore, but about appropriateness. So you kind of choose for the personality that you think is appropriate for the specific concern you want to have addressed at that moment. This is how it works. And this is the first kind of part of the scheme we're thinking in. Also, one of my heroes, Buckminster Fuller, because of this theory, he said, that's funny, if the world works like that, so if we have a specific reaction on specific qualities, then we can steer the world also. And if we can steer the world, let's make it so the best way of predicting the future is to design it. That's beautiful, I think. So in doing a prediction, it's not about understanding exactly what is of meaning, but is also part of what you say is of meaning. You're still kind of... Okay. The second one, so this was about this idea of that people react in specific ways. The second part is that, okay, that's maybe good to understand that design is not about designing objects, it's not design something that is beautiful, it's of designing something that is appropriate. But what is appropriateness? And here we learn from Darwin. So Darwin told us that for instance, on that aisle over there, that one, or different aisles, there were the same species of birds, but they have different beaks. And of course, these beaks were kind of dependent on the types of seeds available on the islands. So these animals adapt to the specific environment. And this is exactly what we say. So we say that this quality that you experience from an object that you encounter, the way you perceive it, is dependent on the environment you're in. So what we want to say is that if you want to be a designer, it's not about designing an object. So that's the first thing we say. You should not do that immediately. You first have to think of the world you are designing for. So it has nothing to do with objects at all. It has to do with a kind of, you are a psychologist, or you're a sociologist, or you're a kind of philosopher. So you have to understand, but how do people live in the future? And this is exactly what this phenomenon is all about, that Darwin discovered. And we kind of put it central in our way of working. So if we come to another place, it's not that we have our ideas on design and we take them with them and we put them into this different context, because then we would we do not follow our own ideology.
Ideology.
Can't come out. Sometimes it's impossible to pronounce words for me. So sorry for that. So it's impossible to follow our own process. So it's more easy. And of course, this is exactly what I always hated from the designers that have their own handwriting, because they come over and they just make the things they make on another place on the world, to just make it again on this new place where they have this new assignment. What I want to discover is what makes this new place, what kind of influence does it have on the things I want to design. This is what I have to discover. So I'm kind of working together with Marcel on a project now for Russia. And there were plans presented from the most famous architecture offices in the world. And you could immediately say from which office the architecture was, because it was all stylistic. It was all about aesthetics, only about aesthetics and not about meaning. And we want to kind of discover in togetherness with the people living in a specific area, okay, what happens over here and what do we want to accomplish with people over here? That's something different. So, and that's so this is in a nutshell, because the kind of the process we work with. And it's a process that is I hope you can kind of see the connections to the stories I've told. So I told you about objects, about properties. So this is the kind of the level of properties. This is the level of interaction and meaning. So people kind of interacting, having a relationship with objects. And the top level is the level of context. It's the level of the specific area where this product-user relationship takes place. And what we say, we have something that is about the present and the past, and we have something about the future. And our way of working is not kind of make an analysis of what is good or bad about current products and kind of improve them, this direction. Our approach is to understand why products are as they are in the context they were kind of positioned in, and then understand what future world kind of will develop in future. And based on this understanding of the future world, we understand how people will behave in this future world. And if we understand how people behave in this future world, we can say, okay, this is maybe not what I want to kind of let happen. This is what I want to change. And this is exactly where the design comes in, because the design is only a means to accomplish what you want people to experience. And it's a kind of rather big responsibility, of course, to do so. But this is the responsibility you have. So you can also not do that and see what happens with every object you make, but then it's a kind of trial and error way of working, and this is what I really hate myself. So if the theory I talked to you about is true, then take the responsibility. And please, if you do not kind of agree with me, please do not agree with me, because I think it's very important that you take your own position in stories like these. What I want to say about this is, so when you follow this direction in product development, so I think you all know about this ideas of revolutionary change and incremental change and all blah blah that everybody is telling when you start product development. what we say, you do not know on forehand what you have to do. So we say just follow this process, see what comes out, and if what comes out is completely different, has different meaning as the products here, then you kind of can say afterwards a revolutionary change was necessary. But it's something you say afterwards and not before you start designing. Because I think we as designers too often make things that are different because of just wanting them to be different. And I think that's a shame. Yeah. And if you talk about this idea of the future, that you want to make something happen in the future with people, there's this other thing you still have to take into account, because the outcomes, of course, fit in this future. So they do not fit in the present. So what you kind of created is something that is over here. It's 25 or 30 years ahead. And then what you have to do, you have to take these ideas, you have to use them to kind of create step by step. From the present, you walk this road. And this step by step is very important, because otherwise you lose your end user. Because an end user, when you put too much novelty in an object, they will reject it. So you have to be kind of very, you have to deal in a very delicate way with an end user. So, and of course, steps, the amount, there's different in steps between different companies. I think like Macintosh, they can introduce things that are completely new. But there's also companies that are kind of conventional companies, and then they have this brand image, and you can immediately understand how it works. But also, this also works for architecture. Okay. Now about the sustainability, and I hope this makes sense now, because it is also based on this structure. So here you see the scheme again of the context. Here you have people living, and here's the entity you interact with. And this can be policies, this can be architecture, again, this can be anything. And of course, in the center of the entity over here, there's the company. So what we say, to make something kind of that is sustainable, you have to be sustainable on 3 levels. At first, it's about that the vision and the mission of the company doing something for this future world. If this vision and this mission do not accomplish something that is sustainable for people, then in the end, nothing can be sustainable. So it starts with the vision and the mission the company wants to kind of address. The second level is on the behavior of people. There's a lot of sustainability now that do not ask people to change their behavior, and I don't like that. Because we are making more sustainable cars. They're more fuel efficient. And that's all true. But if we would kind of change the behavior, how we drive, then this effectiveness would be far more higher. And this is what I'm kind of intrigued in, how you can kind of change in togetherness the product and the behavior of the people, how it kind of in togetherness creates something that is as sustainable as possible. And the last level, the last stage, it is about, of course, the properties or the materials or whatever the object is made of. I fully agree with that. But for me, that's only the kind of the third order problem. You first have to kind of be sure that you kind of address the first and the second order problem, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. It's only something that is sustainable in itself. Why? Okay, Now to the city. I just a few small examples. So, and now I'm going back to this Newton again. So, we say a sustainable city, for instance, is not a sustainable city that has all kind of features that kind of do not ask for a high consumption of energy. But we think that a sustainable city kind of at first brings perspective for people, that people want to stay there, want to live there, want to be there, are attracted to it. And if they are not, what have you made? So now in Russia, for instance, we're working on a new city. But if we make a city that nobody understands what it means for them and why it's of reason or of benefit for them, I don't know. So it's something I do not have a solution for yet, but it is what we're working on at the moment. It's something you just have to work on. And for instance, what we found out, this is a project we did for a big builder in the Netherlands. It's the biggest, I think. And before, because they asked us, we want to make sustainable buildings. And then we said, no, maybe we first have to understand what is sustainable living and why do people see this city as important for them. And then we found out that there's two dimensions that are very important. So it is that you have connect with the living environment, and for instance, and that you have to understand that you as an individual has to develop. And the funny thing is that in developing yourself, sometimes it's very important that you run away from people. So this dimension over here, the value over here is running away from people. And this value over here is kind of get in contact, get in touch with people. And in connection with the living environment, this is about something that's close to you, like home or your neighbor. And this is something that is kind of distance for you, that kind of makes you understand how big this world around you is. And the two of them combined made us understand which concerns had to be addressed with the elements we had to design. And this counts for living, working, education, leisure, etc., etc., etc. So what we did, instead of coming up with a design, we came up with this kind of framework, and this framework gives 24 design guidelines to understand when people experience the city as being meaningful. And it works. It is funny, but it works. And then how you kind of design the city, of course, this is very important. But this is the goal you want to achieve, not the aesthetics of the city itself. And for Rotterdam, for instance, we did the same kind of question. So in Rotterdam, they discovered that there were a lot of young people that if they are 18 or 19 years old, they leave the city. And this city doesn't kind of contribute to their life perspective. This is exactly an example of what I was talking about. And we did the same, we used the same framework to understand how the future city of Rotterdam could look like. And how people, young people, could contribute to this kind of meaningfulness of the city. And the last one, I think the image is ugly, so I really want to kind of apologize for that. It is that a road builder asks us to kind of come up with a new highway, and that highway kind of makes you drive more sustainable. And I'm not going to explain how it really works, but I think these questions are the most interesting questions to get answered. And I think it is designers who have to answer them. And in designers, I mean architects, I mean all the people who create. So I think for the future, and this is where I stop my lecture and ask Marcel to kind of take over, I think that our role for the future is to take the responsibility to understand that everything we make influences the behavior of people, and take the responsibility for that. And I really want to do it together with you. So thank you very much.
Good one. Am I on? No. Yes? Thank you. Thanks, Matthijs. Good evening. I'm sorry, we only speak English for you. We do not speak Turkish at the moment. I know you have probably difficulties with understanding English. But so I try to be as patient with you as possible. Please be patient with me. It takes me some 20-25 minutes, my talk. In the meantime, I hope to get a message from Jos that he's arriving and he can do his talk. If it doesn't succeed, we will have a discussion with you, or you can interview us, you can say so. And then we'll run his pictures of his lecture behind us, because they are pictures. Every picture tells a story, you know. And these pictures he selected for his lecture are very easy to read and easy to understand, because they are pictures from projects which we did in the Netherlands for infrastructural design. Matthijs is a specialist in people and meaning, you could say. I'm more a specialist in people and things. As we run a company which sounds very promising, NewXC, we still come from several different companies. So we don't have one brand, one image, one name, which has grown until from the last 100 years. We are a company growing in itself. So our stories mingle, our stories intertwine, but our stories of everybody in the group is also a little bit different, because every person, every designer has a different approach towards the world. And that's what I want to address to you before I start my lecture. Okay, this image you've seen already enough now. As Matthijs already told, he's educated as an engineer. Me too. I'm a design engineer, or an industrial design engineer to be precise. Educated in Delft at the University of Technology, the same university Matthijs is educating at the moment. I live in Rotterdam, the city where Matthijs was talking about, the large harbor near the coast. My specialism is, of course, in industrial design. I did finish my education a long time ago, but I still try to be in the business as strong as possible, to be a designer, not to step out and be a manager, but to be a designer with the real stuff and the real material at hand, with the real problems to solve. Next to that, a part of my work has to do with design research, or, well, we can discuss what is design research. Design thinking, somebody calls it. It's at least to understand what is design and what can be of meaning for design to society. And next to running a business, we do several projects together. I am a counselor for several cultural organizations in Rotterdam, and in the past also in the Netherlands. I won't bother you with that too much. My lecture, I'll go on a walk, I hope you don't mind, is with three things. First, I wanted to tell something about contact. You understand what I mean. Later, I'll tell you about the things I'm into, things I'm passionate about. And at the third part, I want to give you some comments, of course, about the subject we are here today for. I still have to learn this thing.
It's down, yeah.
Down.
Yeah, and kind of gun is in direction.
Contact, yes. This is the image already been shown by Matthijs. These are the corporations we work for. And I don't want to show you this as an advertisement and as a bodybuilder, how strong we are, how good we are, and how many companies we're working for. I want to use this picture also to tell you that these companies do not work just for one assignment with us. We are into a company to work with them for a generation, you could say, for a long term. And I will give you some examples on that. Well, it's not my hobby today.
It's you roll it down.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you have a long-term relation with clients, it doesn't mean it gets boring. That's why we are also proud of having a lot of international and local awards, which is of meaning for us, of course, but also is a meaning of the relation between us and our customers. I'll still try. I want to pick out one of the companies I've been working for a very, very long time. This is the Dutch large telecommunication company of KPN. It was called PTT Telecom in the past, but today it's called KPN. And this corporation was a client of mine from the beginning of the 80s. We designed an enormous amount of stuff. This is one of the first products which tried to integrate computers and telephones. I know it didn't succeed because now we have all our mobile phones and that seems to be the computer. At that moment we had the idea that the computer will be the telephone. You see the problem? We were studying it, we were making it, we were building it, and this company gave us the opportunity to design these products at that time. But these products are diminishing. These products are. Maybe you have to be patient with it. Sorry for that. Okay. Roll. Okay, great. Oh, there was another image. Yes, this is also a product we did in the past. These telephone booths are being designed around, what was it, the 90s? At the moment, these kind of products are getting out of the way. They're getting in a way and they're getting out of the way because nobody is calling from a booth anymore. So products change, people change, behavior change. So these products are being moved out of the city. Other way around, okay. And as a successor of these large telephone booths, we also designed smaller, even smaller. Get them smaller because they took a lot of area and on the street. And even these smaller ones are being thrown away. I'm sorry to say so. These are icons on the street, but these products will diminish because technology evolves. And we are using other equipment to gain the same experience. About things. I'll show you an image of a photographer, Todd McClellan, and he did marvelous things, I think, with products. What you see over here, he put all parts of the typewriter apart and put it together in an assembly. Do you know what a typewriter is? Do you have to explain what a typewriter is? You know? Did you use any of those anymore? No. Well, that's nice that you still can see how it works. And then when he puts all this stuff together and drops it from a height, and he takes a photograph falling all these parts on the ground or whatever. But during the travel at speed, he also take a picture of these parts falling down. He also did it with a telephone. You remember the telephone? It's a black old thing with a dial. You have to dial, and then you have to take off the hook and say hello. This is the parts to be made of. And this is what happens when the parts are floating in the air. And this is a camera. Probably you don't even use anymore such a camera. But this is an old film type camera with the cassettes. And this is what happens when he drops it. But this is an iPad. You know what an iPad is? It's a typewriter, you know? It's a camera. It's a voice recorder. It's a television. What did we have? It's also a telephone, of course. You can call with it. And you see the amount of parts used to make this kind of products. I don't have a photograph of Todd photographing while this iPad is dropping. I'm sorry. Probably within 5 years you can also make this kind of images, because then the iPad is also probably obsolete or being supplied by another thing. But the nice thing is about that the amount of parts you use are diminishing. But they're getting more and more complex. So how did you do that, Matthijs? This is of course integrated printed circuit boards with huge amounts of switching devices inside. You can't see it anymore. You can't even take it out of one another. But this is what happened with technology. This is what happens with products. And if you see from what happens from the generations of interfaces, but also the generations of people have been using these kind of products, these are already 4 generations. And I'm wondering, of course, as a designer, what the next generation will be. And I'm thinking of, at least, that, like I wrote down over here, at the end, the interface is the product. The interface of the product is just a few layers put upon one another. I have somewhere a telephone, like you have also. This is a telephone camera, whatever it is. A small iPad, you could say. And this is just a small amount of layers put on top of one another. And one day, it will be as thin as paper, probably. The product will be as thin as paper. And that's why I like the saying of Mark, one of the godfathers of the internet. He says, we become what we behold. We shape our tools, and thereafter the tools shape us. So, how many of you are architects? Enough, okay. Do you often look at people making a telephone call in public space or in an office? You know what they do? They don't know how to behave with the telephone in their hand. They walk around, and then they start scratching somewhere. They're going to talk in the corner, putting things. As an architect, you never understood how. You cannot understand how people will behave with this kind of new tools. So, for instance, it would be a nice exercise, maybe for students, for your students, to think about how you can redesign the building in a way that users of mobile telephones will make it a pleasant stay, make a pleasant place for making these kind of calls, instead of ruining your building because they're grabbing and they're touching everything. So, you see, after we have these tools, they are going to shape us. They are going to shape our behavior. And that's what we have to be very conscious about. I'm not sure if Jos did give any sign. I can show you a small movie about the changing of interfaces in time. It's made of a company called Corning. And they... Did you see this Minority Report movie? Probably you know. We were all very excited about what Tom Cruise was doing with his hand on the screens. It was science fiction. Well, if you have the movie of Corning, you could see the future is almost near. It starts again, probably. stop here. So you must be sure what's happening in the coming years. If people see a glass window, they think it's a display. So every window you make, probably they will do this to get an image, to enlarge it, to scratch it. That will be a marvelous thing to see probably, but it will be maybe very frustrating if it doesn't work. It brings me to the subject of things, and this is the topic which I am very much. This is the Internet of Things. They have been giving these kind of developments, the technology developments, different names: ubiquitous computing, ambient intelligence, smart technology. It doesn't matter. It's about things which getting smart. Today we have the man-to-man internet, you could say, and there's also the Internet of Services. If you go to an ATM and get your bank bills, your money out of the wall, it's a man-to-machine interface. The next, and maybe the last thing, is the things-to-things communication, the Internet of Things. Things start working and cooperating together without any involvement of a human being. Of course they are programmed like that. Of course they operate because we took the opportunity to program like that. And we try to help interaction by matching supply and demand. So a machine can better understand when their energy is needed and when the temperature is too warm to cool down, etc., etc. As a people, we do forget what we did a half hour ago. Also, products will help some transformation so that not only and people can have access to information, but also so these products will start operating themselves. I took the opportunity to say something about what happens with the energy use. Machines do need energy. It's not that the Google search is free of use, free of energy. You know, there's always some kind of commercial behind Google research or Google search you give, but it also takes a lot of energy to make a search at Google or another search engine. So it's making use of computers is not energy neutral. You better take probably a book to find or ask somebody around on the street. Well, probably a man-to-machine interaction will be much more energy efficient, and that we can make use of. I'll try to operate again. Yeah. Sorry. At the moment, I'm not sure if it was today or at this moment, there are the same amount of things connected already to the internet as there are people. So it's not something which is brand new or somewhere hidden in a cave. No, these things are going on at the moment. Maybe later on I can show you a movie made by IBM on what the Internet of Things means for us in future. But I'll rather try to continue my lecture before we go into the movie. It's probably not... yes. I want to tell you something about what happens with public transport and the information you can gain from public transport information. If you're waiting for a bus or a tram or a subway, you probably do not want to know exactly what happens in the system, but the only thing you want to know is, do I have to wait for the train to arrive or do I need to walk to the other bus stop or to another location? So it's wait or walk, but it doesn't it sounds very easy, but in practice it's more difficult. Sorry. It's not my habit today. Yeah? Yeah? It did. This is what is happening today in large cities, of course also over here, about public transport. you have a large display somewhere in the area of a bus stop or a train stop or a tram stop, which gives you the exact timing of arrival and departure of the coming one. There's another thing what you can do is just wait. That's what I said. There's a typical Dutch bus stop. There is a map of the city, and there are plans, timetables you call them, which says when the bus will be arriving. Only says when. It doesn't say that it will arrive. It will only tell you that it will arrive. And if you want people to make more use of public transport, there has been research been done that you need to inform them better about the transport itself. When is the bus coming? When it's going away? When its departure is there? So I hope to. Yes. We put more intelligence into these devices, and how this is slightly how it works. You have a bus, and it's connected, or its location is being made by GPS. Like every telephone at the moment has also GPS, so everybody knows where you are at the moment. Maybe not in this building, but at least they know where you are. The location is sent through telecommunications through the internet to a computer, and the computer itself it calculates, and it tells later on via the internet to bus poles that the bus is coming. Yes. And this is a very small device we designed 5 years ago. It's a unit which operates with a large screen, which is connected at an existing pole. This is existing infrastructure in the Netherlands. There's something about the bus, which lines are traveling. This is timetable, but this is the information which is real time, with telling you about the departure of buses at that typical unit. And this is what you need to make this come true. And as you see, these products are all already made of layers, small layers put on top of one another. An antenna, a battery, a display, some devices to make it watertight, etc. But you see, it's getting smaller and smaller. But this is, I think, the most important development at the moment in the Netherlands, is that we extended the use of these, the design of these units, is making them with more displays, which can be lighted at night. There are paper timetables inside, and if I take the other image, you can see that at the back side and at the top there are solar cells. This product can operate for 10 years independently from any source. Only the sun has to shine. So, well, even in Holland the sun does shine, and enough to generate enough energy to make this product work for 10 years independently. But I've also made some comment on this. Is this sustainable, what we are doing? And if you're talking about sustainability, I have learned that you're talking about 3 things: people, planet, and profits. For people, it's very obvious that if they know when a bus is arriving exactly, they make more use of public transport. And not only for buses, it's also for trams, for trains, everything where you are dependent on somebody else, you like to know exactly what you're up to. Do I have to wait or do I have to walk? So I think at the end it's very profitable and sustainable for people. They will make more use of public transport. I would hope you will also do over here, because we were stuck, of course, in the traffic jam when we came here. You are used to it. The taxi driver wanted to make an end out of his life after our trip, he said. Yeah. It was a horrible experience. Well, we are used to that. You are used to that probably already. So don't kill yourself for that. But is it sustainable also and profitable for the planet? And here I come also, of course, in problems. if you're making these kind of products, you use the energy of the sun to generate energy to make the product work. In that way, it's very sustainable. But on the other hand, we need a battery to load with energy. And I must say, even in your in telephone, even in your iPad, whatever equipment you use, a battery, even in an electric car, the battery is the less sustainable part of all these equipment. It's not an urge to ask you to redesign batteries, to make a better battery. Or battery. Maybe that's... But these kind of products are still the showstopper, I would say, for these products to come true in a large scale. If you go back to, can I go back? Yes. The rest of the products is completely made out of aluminium, and this aluminium, of course, it's expensive to gain. It's of course expensive to process to make a virgin material. After you have it, you can reuse it very often. Okay, also this product is of course meant to be there for 10 years at least. But after its end of life, you can reuse the aluminium. The aluminium is not only used because it's sustainable; it's also very efficient and very helpful to get rid of the condensation in water in the air, which hides it from ruining the electronics. Is it profitable? At the moment, as a product, you cannot buy it for a small amount of money. We need subsidies from the government. We need subsidies from institutions like large companies or large governmental organizations to support us in making this come true. But they are the generator of there he is, Jos. These organizations, these larger governmental organizations, those are the enablers to make this technology come true, after all, at a larger scale. So I think at the end it's probably profitable. And isn't there any alternative, you maybe would argue, with me? How about your mobile telephone? I told you about the iPad and iPhone. Why isn't this information already on your iPhone or your iPod? Yes, it is. But the problem is, join me. The problem is not everybody is having this kind of smartphones. Not everybody having access to this equipment. So I do think in 10 years' time, maybe everybody's using this kind of equipment. But at the moment, like you see, you can have it on the internet, you can have it on your iPhone. Every information is already there, but not everybody does have access. At least in the Netherlands, elderly people do not trust mobile communication because they do not know what the expense of communication is. And if it's too expensive, they do not trust the providers because they want to earn more money, of course. Maybe we can solve it in another way. And as a study, we designed new street name plates. You know what a street name plate is? Those are these plates which are mounted on a wall, which tells others where you live, because you know where you live. You know the street, you know the name. You don't have to tell you in which street which street name plate you own. So this study, we provided the street name plate with extra information, which can also be on the arrival of buses, but also on the arrival of new dwellers in your street, about fairs in the street, people looking for nurses or babysitters, etc., etc. These kind of products can be also kind of new image board. I will hurry up, Jos, so you can continue.
I took mine.
No, but these people are waiting for you, Jos. I have two other comments. So there are alternatives, but not for me tonight. Yes. Oh, wow. There are two things I want to address in relation to architecture also. I think if you want to make a sustainable city or a green city, I'm not sure how you call it over here. Somebody calls it a green city, which means it will be painted green, or does it have only vegetables growing around instead of cars driving? But I think what is meant is that it is a sustainable city. If you want people to generate their own energy in such a city, I would like you to stop making high-rise buildings, because at the end, not now, but maybe in 20 years, everybody will demand for access to direct sunlight. And if there are too much high-rise buildings around us, probably you do not have access to sunlight, and you cannot grow your own vegetables in your urban farming garden. You cannot energize your solar cells with direct sunlight. So that's what I like about the city of Barcelona. Maybe you know the city of Barcelona, but most of the buildings are not higher than 7 levels. And that's it, no more than that. And that's maybe a way to give everybody access to sunlight when they want, and also to make a shadowless area when they need. We can discuss on that, but I think the high-rise building is not an expression of, it's maybe more expression of money and of greatness and of power, but not about sustainability. Yes. And this is what happens when you Twitter with a guy who often runs conferences like this. One day, when was it? Beginning of September, he sent a Twitter. He said, "Why do not people stop telling that the economy of the population of the world is growing and growing and growing? Because that's a fact of life. We cannot change that. We're getting more people on this planet, and of course, there's a story that we need 10 planets." To cope with all the demands for material, to cope with all the demands for energy. But at least let's understand that we have this planet and we have this growth of population. So I replied to him, and that's what I like to give with you also. Probably it's more interesting to talk about the growth of the population than talk about using less energy, then talking about using less water, then talking about using less material, and also buying less cars, you could say, or using less cars. And then I come up to the man Matthijs already introduced to you, Buckminster Fuller. He's not only his favorite; it's also mine. He copied. No, he didn't. I know that. If you want to, want to build a future, you have to design it yourself. And as a designer, I like to be part of that future. I am a part of that future. This is the wonderful thing Buckminster Fuller did in the past already. He addressed. I want to go back to this one. Yes, he designed lightweight constructions for buildings. So it's not so easy. This has been done during the Second World War to house armies, to house people who didn't have homes. You could transport this kind of buildings with a helicopter. They are as light as air, you could say, but they have the same performance as a building. So if you use less weight, you use also less energy for transport. There's also less pollution, etc., etc. But then he failed. He wanted to make a large dome over New York City and also make the environment within the dome optimal for just a few people. And there he went wrong. We have seen proposals last week in Moscow from a famous Japanese architect who also wanted to make such a kind of dome around a transferium of traffic in Moscow, which was over the top, you could say. You cannot do that today anymore. But this is the end of my story. I think what at least what Buckminster Fuller says, that architecture does have a role, and also I think a role in making the world more sustainable. I thank you very much for your attention. Hope to see you soon. This is the wheel.
Hij moet
Naar
je,
voren, naar achter?
ja, je moet gewoon naar voren, dan gaat hij door. Ja? De rollen.
Well, good evening. Sorry that I kept you waiting for so long, but I hope these guys have entertained you. Different from the stories they told, I'm going to focus a little bit more on projects. Both of them told you that all of us are designers.
Werkt die wel?
Can you
Ja,
understand me?
prima.
Does
Ja,
it work?
It does.
It
I
does?
think.
Yeah, okay. All of us are designers, industrial designers, and we tend to do things in a little bit different way than architects would do and builders would do. And I'm going to focus a little bit on how we approach the process, the design process in a different way, and what the effects of that are. If the thing works.
Roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is it.
You.
This is the design process that we, product designers, industrial designers use. As you can see, we have 3 phases: strategy, design, and realization. And here already you can see that we approach it in a different way. Architects generally tend to start with a design and then fill in the rest. And the whole process, just like an organic thing, builds up like a larger structure. What we tend to do, and Matthijs also focused on that, is that we start with strategy, which means that we tend to think about everything in the whole process, develop that, and only when we have everything finished, then we start building and designing. I'm going to show you some of the projects where we use that methodology. This is an antenna system that we did for Vodafone some years ago. Come on.
Ja, dat is
Ja.
van je af.
Naar beneden.
Nee, net andersom.
Like this, yeah. So basically this is on the edge between product design and you could say architecture. This is the situation that we knew. On big buildings, people started to hate these antennas, cables on rooftops because they look very ugly. And the basic question that the client asked to us was, okay, make this look better so people accept them on their roofs. Which of course is not a question that we can answer. We also always tend to look for larger questions and larger answers. So what we did is we looked behind that question and tried to figure out what the real problem was. And the real problem was that the thing doesn't work. Come on. What's this? In the building process, there are many parties that are involved. And those of you involved in building know that there's a huge amount of companies all doing a small bit of the process. And the coordination of the building process is usually very messy. So, in this case, now I have 2, yeah, okay. What you see here are all the parties involved. And if they all get to the job one by one, or at the same time, they mess up. So we said the whole idea of this thing, of this building process, is that we clean it up. So we start first with rethinking the whole structure, rethinking the design, rethinking the strategy, and then we start all over again. So if you look at these sites, these antenna sites on buildings, what we saw is that over the different sites, only a few standard parts are used. Most of what is used is custom-made parts, site-dependent parts, which means that every site you build again is something new. You discover a new thing. The new process that we proposed was a bit more like this. And this is the industrial approach, where we integrate industrial thinking into building. And we say, okay, we have what you see on the left side, a main supplier that builds in a factory, builds the whole thing in a factory. And on the right-hand side, we have contractors that place that thing on the roof. And that's it. So what we end up is something like this. A large part of the structure that we build is standard, and only a very small part of the structure is site dependent. Oh, come on. This leads to something like this. So not the messy stuff that we saw before, but a well-organized system that's put on the roof in only one day. It's like a plug-and-play system. You take a crane, put it on the roof, put in the plug, and it works. It has its own foundations, its own structure, its own cabling. Everything is integrated in the system. And then you end up with something that is, let's say, like the products that you get from the factory. Still on? Yeah. It's like a catalog product, the standard product from the shelf. So we have antennas, we have cable ducts, communication modules, dish systems. This really is too fast, sorry. Which means that we have transformed the building process on the roof into an industrial process. With that, we save a lot of materials, a lot of energy, and a lot of time. And have made a big step in building on roofs. The second project is a tram stop system for the city of Amsterdam. A very Dutch-looking, the style-like construction, I would say. This is this kind of sketch you expect from a designer. The first sketch that leads into something that still has to be developed. What we do it a different way. We start with making models that almost have all the solutions in it. Start making computer drawings in modules where we can build every tram stop in the whole city with the same system. And then engineer it. Engineer it in a way that not the form is leading, but the structure is leading. The organization of the parts is leading. So we build it in a factory. Every part of this construction has been designed before it's actually made. And here you can see that the construction later on in the process is actually made in the factory. So not on the streets, but like an industrial process. So we have a big company, a big machine, a big hall where a couple of tens of these products are all ready to be brought onto the streets, but first they are built completely to finish. And then, in one night, the whole system was placed on the streets. The whole tram stop system was placed on the streets in only one night. And that was possible because it was all pre-assembled. This is the situation in actual life. And here you can see that it's all made of the same parts, standard parts, off the shelf. The next one is the largest project that we did so far. It's the design of a high-speed train track in Holland. And where do I point to?
It's magic.
Yeah, there you go. It was a government project, and what happened there is there were many parties involved, and they all had part in the discussion. And the effect of everybody bringing his own share into the process was that the whole thing grew and grew and grew and grew. It got bigger and bigger and bigger, too big. So the project leader at some point thought, okay, we have to do this in a different way. We have to get other people involved, and they had a smart thought of involving an industrial designer in this process. So what we did, we called everybody back around the table again, asked them for their input, structured their input, and came up with a new system. And the system is a bit like this, what you see here. The track is still the same, in the middle, the yellow part, this.
Even pointer, Jos.
And all the other functionalities are attached to the side in a very compact way. They're stacked. So the sound screens, the electricity, the cable ducts, the cleaning alleys, everything is concentrated in a small module that's connected to the site. Its modules, the modules will be used throughout Holland over the whole track from Amsterdam to the border, which is a long track. The same elements, thousands of the same elements repeated after each other. And here you can see how it fits in the landscape. To show what we did, this is also a nice image to show the structure of the whole thing. It is still that big concrete thing, prefab blocks with industrial elements on the side. And here you can see how it fits in the landscape. Specific thing about this track is that in Holland we have a very soft soil. So everything you do needs to have big pillars underneath to support it. So the whole track is made in concrete. It's the biggest building in Holland. Here you can see that it's being built. It's almost finished now. And you can see the structure of the project, a big concrete box, and on the sides these small lanes with all the other functionality integrated in it. This is the last one, I think.
Yep.
This is an installation system for buildings, and this gets as close to industrial building as I've seen so far. Come on. This is a system where all the piping, cabling, electricity, ventilation in a building is concentrated in one module, in one system. With the big advantage that the craftsmen that install these systems don't go in one by one. So the first one does something, the next one builds around it, and the third one builds around that again. No, it's all concentrated in one big block. And these blocks are again produced in a factory and put in the building very fast. You screw in a few hooks in the ceiling, hook it in, snap them together, works. Here you can see them, the modules made in a factory, standard size, we have corners, we have connector pieces. The whole building can be, how do you call it, installed, again within days. Thank you. It was very fast.
Okay. Wow. Thank you.